So hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I have a video that I don't even know how to start. Also, I'm sorry, my hair is kind of a mess, but whatever, it's really tired. I'm tired, which is also the reason why I'm making this video. I am just tired and annoyed, and there's some things that I want to talk about that really, to be honest, some of those things probably deserve a proper discussion video. That's not what this video is going to be. This video is just going to be a hodgepodge of things that are currently on my mind. Started by, once again, I mean, those are things that I have been meaning to make videos about before, but, you know, whatever. There was a situation that made me sit down now and just do this video this style. But yeah, before we get into those things, just a little disclaimer: this video is not scripted. I mean, none of my videos are scripted, but usually if I have something to discuss, I try to at least have bullet points, so I know, you know, I'm somewhat structured in my video. Today's video is not going to be that. Today's video is literally just going to be me vomiting out my words, and not words, my thoughts. And there's, yeah, it's also, if you're not in a mood for a negative video, this also will not be a video for you, because basically I'm just going to talk about some things that piss me off about the bookish community, that are just some things that I really don't like. And while I will try to keep some nuance, because I just, you know, the world isn't made up of black and white, but usually I try to be a little more balanced, even in my discussion videos, even in my rants. Today's video is not going to be the day for that. I'm just way too annoyed to be in any way, shape or form, you know, balanced in this video. And yeah, lastly, this video might vanish after a few days, who knows. Like, I'm just sitting down right now because I just want to get these things off my chest. Maybe I won't even upload it. I mean, if you're seeing this, obviously I uploaded it. Maybe in a week, in 2 weeks time, I'm not happy with this video anymore and I'm gonna delete it. Who knows? I don't. But yeah, what is this video going to be about? This video basically will be, once again, all over the place, and I just want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about how I just really can't stand fans idolizing authors. I am going to talk about how I just don't like the black and white attitude that a lot of book people have started developing towards books. And with black and white, I don't mean like black and white in problematic and non-problematic. I mean, even there, I'm just not a black and white person, okay? It's not who I am. But I'm more so talking about how if you love a book and if a book is a favorite of yours, there absolutely is no way how you and any other person can criticize it. But if you hate a book, there's absolutely no way how you or any other person is allowed to appreciate stuff about the book. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that. There was something else that I also wanted to talk about. Well, we'll get to it, I'm sure. But yeah, what started this? A situation started this, and this video is not going to be about that situation. If you wanna have discussions about that situation in the comments, I don't. I just straight up am gonna tell you, I will not answer those comments. Will I use the situation sometimes as examples for the points that I want to say? Yes, I am going to talk about that. However, I'm not interested in talking about the situation in specific. It's just, you know, the situation and that fandom, or my experiences with that fandom, just highlight very gorgeously a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about. But what was the situation? The situation was that for some reason, I don't even know what started it. I think possibly like it got started on Reddit or something once again. That a discussion was started again about Brandon Sanderson and Mormonism, and is it okay to buy Brandon Sanderson since he tithes 10% of his income, which for an author is quite large, to an organization that is racist, queerphobic, and also sexist. Plus, it's also a cult. So yeah, I think if you've been on my channel, you know my stance on this. Like, I'm not necessarily someone who will tell you to not go out and buy his books, but I personally decided last year that I will not buy any more of his books because of this reason. It took me quite a long time to get to that decision. It took me years of knowing that he is Mormon and so on, and then slowly also learning more about Mormonism and so on, before I managed to just bite the bullet and say I won't buy his books anymore. Did it help a lot that I had my reread where I just ended up being like, actually his stories suck? Yeah, it probably helped a lot, but yeah, I ended up biting the bullet. Also, this will not be a video on problematic authors and should we read problematic authors and stuff. I have a quite old video on that topic. I will leave that link down below. But fair warning, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with everything that I said in that video anymore. Anyway, that situation got started. It mostly got started like how I saw it, or how I kind of got behind it. How I noticed it was a few queer readers being like, hey, here is why I don't buy Sanderson, and maybe you should think twice about buying him. Like, there was not a lot of tweets where I saw people straight up saying, hey, don't buy Sanderson or you're a dick. And yeah, shit got started because the Sanderson fandom is literally one of the worst fandoms on the internet. And I can say that not just as a Sanderson hater now, but I already would have said that while I was still part of that fandom, while I still counted Sanderson as my favorite author. Because the Sanderson fandom, there are few fandoms that I know who idolize their author like the Sanderson fandom does. And like, I'm sorry. Are y'all alright? I do not understand idolizing authors. I do not understand putting authors on pedestals, because in a way it stops you being able to think critically about them as a person. And I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky because I still grew up in a time where social media wasn't as prevalent and where authors certainly weren't on social media. Like, I think I got Facebook when I was 14, and I was pretty late with that. Most of my friends had it like 2 years earlier already. I got Twitter when I was over 20 already. Like, I wasn't someone who used social media a lot in general. Like, none of my favorite authors while growing up had any social media. I knew nothing about my favorite authors. A lot of the authors who were my favorite authors then, like Anne Bishop, still don't have social media. They have like a blog on their website, maybe, where they talk about new releases and stuff. So I never knew anything about authors that I read. So maybe that's why I just never felt the need to idolize authors. And I just think it's really, really dangerous. Like, in general, I'm not a fan of parasocial relationships. So yeah, but to be honest, not gonna talk that long about this part. The other more important thing I want to talk about, or more important thing to me, is, and there's gonna be multiple elements that are gonna go into this, but like, and it has to do with idolizing authors, right? Because when we idolize authors, a lot of times we also idolize their content. And this is very Sanderson specific. We like read stuff into their content that isn't there, but whatever. Also, sorry if you can hear beeping, that's my dishwasher. But anyway, idolizing content or putting content on a pedestal, and I think it can go both directions. Like, either you idolize the author and because of that idolize the content, or you just love the content and then start idolizing the author. And I think once you start idolizing something, once you put it on a pedestal to a certain degree, I think it's just not good when it comes to media. Like, it's probably not good when it comes to anything, but it's especially not good when it comes to media, because you stop questioning things. You stop questioning things that appear in the media, and something that I can see a lot. And I think it's the same issue why so many people still read Harry Potter and still try to defend J.K. Rowling and try to defend Harry Potter, or try to defend Harry Potter even though they understand that J.K. Rowling is a shitty person. It's like, people identify with their favorite books to a degree that, I'm sorry, frankly speaking, I just don't think is healthy. And again, maybe I just don't understand it. Maybe I don't understand because I never identified with the books that I read to that degree. That's not to say that I didn't have a strong connection to the books that I read. Once again, example, Anne Bishop, The Black Jewels. Like, The Black Jewels were that formative to me as a person that, like, I first read it when I was 12. When I was 18, me and a friend exchanged our favorite books. So I read her favorite book of all time, she read my favorite series of all time, which was The Black Jewels. And when she finished the trilogy, she literally looked at me and told me, I understand you so much better now. And like, how that was, like, how this book was very formative to who you are as a person and how you approach life. So like, don't come at me and tell me that just because I didn't identify with a series to that degree, that I don't understand what it means to have a series that is very important to you. But I do think there's a difference between a series being formative to you and important to you and completely identifying with that series. And I think the dangerous thing about identifying with a series is, and I have made that experience so much with Sanderson fans, like with Sanderson fans more than anyone else at all. And I have already made that experience with Sanderson fans while he was still my favorite author, and while I also loved his books. The thing when you identify with a series and with an author to that degree is that people cannot criticize the littlest thing about it without it feeling like a personal attack. That's something that like really got me over the past few days with the example of this, is that like a lot of Sanderson fans, they didn't listen to the criticisms or the reasons. They weren't like, hey, okay, I'm also a queer person, because for some reason there's a lot of queer readers to Sanderson, like, beats me why it is like that, because there's enough other queer media out there without readers having to, you know, go to Storm the Archive or whatever. The thing that I realized is that a lot of times you had traumatized queer people with a history of religious trauma, so people with very good reasons not to want to read Sanderson, and Sanderson fans attacked them for what they were saying and for their explanations why they didn't read Sanderson, but not in a way where it was like, hey, I think like you're wrong or you're reading this wrong, but in a way as if they had been personally attacked by how, you know, queer people react to Sanderson, or some queer people react to Sanderson, which to me is just like, I don't know, I'm not that deep, or I haven't been that deep in many other fandoms, because I just try to stay away from fandom spaces, to be honest, like specific fandom spaces. But like, tell me in the comments, have you ever made that experience before, that like people identify with books and with series to a degree where anything you say negatively about a book just is taken as a personal criticism? So yeah, it's like that, and it's often the littlest things, like you can't really criticize anything. So I just lost my train of thought because my SD card ran out. But yeah, I just think we're at a really, just also community wise, we're at a really unhealthy space in the book community right now, where a lot of times liking or loving a book means that you just aren't allowed to criticize it anymore. And I don't mean that other people aren't allowed to criticize it anymore. I mean that, like, you as a reader, as soon as you love a book too much, for some reason just completely lose the ability to think critically about that book. And I don't know, maybe like short format stuff like Twitter and TikTok are to blame for that. But the thing is, like, as I said, I love the Black Jewels and they were so important to me and I still love them. I still love the characters, I love the writing. Well, less so now than I used to. There's like a lot of elements of that series that I still love. However, there's also a lot of elements that I severely criticize. That series did not age well. There were some things like, I would say there's more queer rep by now than Brandon Sanderson has, for which Brandon Sanderson is being praised a lot. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't take out the digs at the fandom and everything in this video, but yeah, there is some queer rep in later books, but generally speaking, the series is very gender essentialist. It's very man and woman, it's very black and white, and I don't think that aged well. I'm not sure if I would necessarily still recommend it as a series to modern readers. I think if I would recommend it, I'd recommend it with a lot of caveats, with a lot of disclaimers, of being like, hey, be aware, this is how the series is, and this is when it was written. But, you know, I can still criticize the series. And even with series that I film gush reviews about, where I have reviews where I'm like, hey, just disclaimer, I don't really see anything negative about those series when I read it. That doesn't mean that if people come to me and say, hey, have you looked at this, or have you seen this review that kind of talks a little bit about some aspects that maybe weren't as well done in this book or in the series, that I can't genuinely engage with that. And that doesn't have to mean that you have to necessarily agree with what that other person says, but like, engage with it in good faith. And I think like that's something that just has been completely lost, and I notice it in some of my reviews of, like, you know, just kind of between 3.5 and 4-star series, where people don't understand. Like, I end those reviews with, yeah, anyway, I loved that series and I would really recommend it, but people focus only on the negative stuff that I said and how because of that I'm a hater. And it's like, hater, I recommended the series in the end. Like, granted, I start my reviews out with the negative stuff, but the reason for that is because I want to end a video on a positive note. So yeah, it's just, and yeah, it's just absolutely incomprehensible to me how, like, don't you have fun engaging with books anymore? Like, I don't know. This video is more judgmental than my videos usually are, to be honest, but as I said, I'm in a mood currently, and all the criticisms that I've said so far, I saw the most within the Sanderson fandom. And that also gets me to the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is, like, when talking critically about a book, can we please listen to communities? And that doesn't mean that those communities have to be monoliths. As we see very much with the example right now, like within the queer community, there are those of us who are like, nah, I'm not going to buy Brandon Sanderson. And there are others who are like, no, but Sanderson is such a great queer ally. You know, he's an amazing queer ally. I'm sorry, I had to. At some point, when I have the emotional spoons to do that, I will make a video on Sanderson, on all his Reddit posts and everything, and why even with his latest posts, I still have massive issues with how he depicts the queer community, or like how he talks about the queer community. So yeah, and why some of the things he says just sound a bit too close to comfort to subterfuge for me. If that's the right word. I think it's the right word. Where was I? Yeah, queer community. Obviously very split on things. And this is specifically about this situation, by the way. I just find it really, really hypocritical that when someone publishes or when someone posts Brandon Sanderson's statement about gay marriage from 2007, a lot of people are like, this is disingenuous, this is dishonest, this is a 16-year-old statement. He has since made other statements. But when other queer people wanna put out the information that, hey, Brandon Sanderson is an author that gives to the Mormon church, to, you know, inform people, because maybe, like, obviously some people are uncomfortable with that and uncomfortable with buying book by an author like that, then we're attacked. Then we're attacked and we're anti-religious and I don't know, whatever. So yeah, I just think it's so important to talk about problems. And yes, a lot of times criticism, or not a lot of times, but sometimes criticism will be used as a way to, what's it called, to virtue signal by people who are not directly affected by something. Which, by the way, you don't have to be directly affected by something to notice something and to maybe call it out. But at the same time, we can't use some people virtue signaling as an excuse to attack people being harmed by one of our favorite books just because they are critically talking about one of our favorite books. Like, if a marginalized community talks about how they have concerns about a specific book or a specific author, like, the least we can do is not attack them for that? Is that just me? Is that really just me? Like, even if you belong to that same community, like, if you belong to that same community, you should understand better, actually. Like, I don't know, it's just, this video is long enough. I don't want to talk about anymore. Let's see if you're actually gonna see this video tomorrow, but yeah, I'm just done. I'm done, to be honest. I'm tired. This was a confusing video. This was a pretty bad video, probably. I don't even know what I'm gonna title it. And so, yeah. Tell me in the comments down below if you have any thoughts on any of the stuff that I said. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. And yeah, all the links to my social media as well as to my book club will be left linked down below. And also, fuck it, because I just wanna, I'll also link my videos on queer fantasy series down below. So yes, that's it. And I hope I'll see you on Sunday in a better mood. Bye.